I do, baby. So I am absolutely stunned that we didn't. Neither of us did this last year for our holiday special. And I remember you specifically scrambling to find you a Christmas themed story to tell.
Yeah.
And then uh, it's the first thing that came up for me. And this book came out in 2011. So we should have seen it, but here we are now talking about it. I am discussing Batman Noel from DC Comics. This was written and drawn by Lee Bermejo, who also was the artist on Brian Azzarello's Joker. So you know the art's going to be fairly intense. Colors by Barbara Ciardo and letters by Todd Klein, which I believe is also the letterer of your book,
Yeah, that's too funny. That's funny
right?
how it worked out. Yeah.
So yeah, this is a 2011 book, and no, it doesn't appear as though it was released in single issues. It's a 92-page story, and I think it was just all, put out at once as a hardcover kind of story. But quick synopsis. Inspired by Charles Dickens' immortal classic, A Christmas Carol, Batman Noel features different interpretations of the Dark Knight, along with his enemies and allies in different eras, from writer and artist Lee Bermejo. In this spectacular, oversized graphic novel, Batman must come to terms with his past, present, and future as he battles villains from the campy 1960s to the dark and brooding menaces of today, while exploring what it means to be the hero that he is. And so,
Definitely a quick synopsis. Just
yeah,
for
real quick. Yeah,
yeah.
real quick.
I gotta
So,
cut down on mine. It's like giving you shit.
yeah, you're just three times the fucking size of this one. Yeah,
Jeez.
I would tell
Anyways.
you to eat something right now, but this is a family program.
Yeah, of course. Yes, absolutely. Definitely the definition of TLDR. Family program. Definitely kid safe. Every time I do a YouTube video, they're always like, "Is this made for children?" No,
It's
no.
made
We're
by
talking.
a child, but not
Yes,
for a child.
yeah, a pair of children, but no, definitely not for kids. Much as we're talking about picture books.
Right,
Anyways,
right, right. So I love A Christmas Carol. I'll watch many iterations of this during the Gilmore's 25 Days of Christmas, which we apparently I'm going to squeeze into Medea movie. That's for you, Bert. But I love The Christmas Carol. The story of it, it's about redemption, and it's one of the best pieces of work in literary history. So when Lee Bermejo decides to tackle it with Batman, yeah, I am in. I'm gonna definitely check this out. And the premise of it is Batman is Scrooge. Batman has lost his way. He's not the
oh,
man that he once was. And he's obsessed with the Joker, as we know him to be, but he's obsessed with the Joker to such a point that he's willing to sacrifice everything that he is, that makes him Batman, that makes him a hero. And he's willing to catch the Joker at all costs, even if it means knowingly putting, innocent lives and an innocent child at risk to do so. Right. So this is not
mm-hmm.
who Batman is, right? And so what's great about it, I mean, it really does sort of follow Dickens' story, sort of step by step here, but it's a lot grittier, in a way that only Lee Bermejo, could do. So, we get our cast of characters here, where, as I said a moment ago, Batman is Scrooge.
Mm-hmm.
The story's got, I would say the main character really is the narrator, is the person telling the story. But like I said, Batman's obsessed with obsessed with catching the Joker, and the story begins with him using a low level crony as bait.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sounds all right.
this guy steals a ton of money. Batman busts him, takes the money, puts a tracker on the guy because he knows that Joker is going to come looking for this guy and kill him. And when he goes to do so, that's when Batman's going to strike.
Mm-hmm.
And so as he's following this character whose name is Bob Cratchit, right?
Yeah.
It's a little on the nose, but it works.
No, it's fine. You got to get a little cheesy when you're doing like
Right?
Christmas related stuff.
Yeah. Right. Batman's doing his recon on the guy, and he sees that he's got a son named Tim.
Mm.
And so Tim is interesting in this regard because of Tiny Tim, but also because of Tim Drake,
Mm.
Robin,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay.
And so Batman's got zero concern that this guy's got a kid. He's just biding his time, till the Joker shows up, and he doesn't give a shit that the kid's going to be caught in the crossfire, which I thought was a really interesting take to show how far Batman had gone off the reservation. Just
Mhm.
how nuts, because that's what makes a redemption story. You got to see someone at their lowest low to be able to build them back up again.
Mhm.
And so, even Batman uses the line, you're decreasing the surplus population that Scrooge uses
Oh.
when asked about like collateral damage. Like, when Alfred says, there's a kid there, and he's like, well, sometimes, in order to decrease the surplus population, you're going to do what's necessary, something to that effect.
Mhm.
So that's, again, it's very anti Bruce Wayne, very anti, Batman.
I
And
can
so
tell you
just
this. I can tell you this show. I would like to see this turned into like an animated movie. That'd be
this
fun.
would be an awesome animated movie.
It'd
It
be
would be
fun.
perfect, and this would
Mhm.
definitely be on my list to watch every year for sure. So, the other main character you get right is Jacob Marley, right in the beginning of the Christmas Carol. He's the one that sort of warns Scrooge, the error of his ways.
Mhm.
Don't repeat the same mistakes. You still have time.
Mhm.
And Jacob Marley in this case is Jason Todd.
Oh, okay. Well, that's tough now because like, is that my favorite Marley? Because I'm more of a Marley and Marley fan. If you know which
Marley
one of
and Marley,
that's my
woo!
favorite Christmas movie of all time. So like now it's like, see if this was animated, this would be pushing the limits for me for sure.
And I thought that was it was a really great choice there, because we've already setting up the premise that Batman just doesn't give a shit about like if a child's going to be endangered or not.
Mm.
And the last child that he sort of put in danger was Jason Todd, and he died, right? And
Mhm.
so like living with that grief and that guilt, and sort of where it's sent Batman. I thought that was a great character to choose for Jacob Marley. And you need to be redeemed. You're on a path that's just, it's not going to end well for you.
Mhm.
And then as it goes, we get our three ghosts. So the first ghost is the ghost of Christmas Past. This is played by Catwoman. She's just sort of there to, again, as the story goes, she reminds Batman of who he used to be. And the most interesting part of her little part in this book was the end,
Mhm.
where it goes from her ghost to the next ghost, and the Ghost of Christmas Past ends in Crime Alley, which was a cool scene.
Mm.
What you get a lot with Bermejo's art in this book is you get a lot of like just double page spreads of just a lot of action going on, and
Mhm.
you see a lot of different things. And so that just that iconic scene of Crime Alley being used as a part of Ghost of Christmas Past was nice. And then we get the Ghost of Christmas Present, and this was another brilliant choice. This was Superman, right?
Oh.
So we know in the stories, any iteration of A Christmas Carol, the Ghost of Christmas Present is this larger than life, very colorful, very festive ghost. And
Mhm.
I mean, that's Superman. He's larger than life. He's got bright colors, the red, the blue, and the yellow. And he's again, it's just following Dickens' tale, step by step. So he's there to show Batman that even his allies don't think of him the way that he might think of himself, and trying to show him like, listen, yeah, you're doing good here, but you're 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 a step away from shit really hitting the fan here, and everyone is starting to see it. You need to see it yourself. And he's trying to sort of nurse Bruce back to healthier, nurse his ego. He's physically ill in the book, and so you get a lot of Superman doing Superman, coddling here. But it
Hmm.
was the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, which I think was no surprise. It's the Joker, right? It's
Mm.
it's it's death, it's chaos, and that's exactly what he's there to show Bruce. He's Batman, if you continue on this path, which I hope you do, this is the chaos that will rain down. And the effects that it has on Alfred, and the effects that it has on Gordon for those helping him, and just the descent that Gotham dives into. It's change your ways, or all the good that you have done will be for naught, because it's going to get that much worse. And so while it was on the nose at times, I thought it really did a good job at sort of giving you this Gotham City view of, A Christmas Carol and Dickens' Tale. And I mean, it was a quick read. It was a fun read. I mean, Liebermejo's art is unique. It's gritty. It wasn't as gruesome
Mhm.
as the Joker, or Joker, I should say. But it's not to say that it didn't have its moments,
Mhm.
because I think he's a really good horror artist. He
Mhm.
can really create a lot of that with his art. The one thing that I didn't quite like was the letterer,
Oh.
unfortunately,
Oh.
just because, like, when there was dialogue, it was the traditional, bubbles and all that stuff, and it was great and it was easy to read, but the narration a lot of time was just blended in with the background. So my old ass eyes had a hard time. I had to zoom in a lot,
Oh.
to kind of read it. So, which I don't typically have to do. So
Hmm.
that was just like the one choice that I thought was like, they could have done the narration bits a little bit better. But
Hmm.
overall, if you want to read a holiday book, you love Batman, you love Christmas Carol, definitely give it a read. This was a fun one for
I
sure.
always find it interesting too. You talk about like we talked about Batman Reptilian, right? Which is a book that kind of like fell off for me a little bit, and there's a lot of different things that Garth Ennis was trying to do in that series, where it's kind of more like making the satire. It's more like kind of poking at the issues with Batman over the years, where people criticize him. With this, it's like it's obviously not the same thing, but it's of that ilk where Batman has kind of, like you say, he's lost his way, and it's not demonizing Batman. More so, Ennis tried to do that, which into some ways he did succeed in doing that. But here, I find it like, do you find this is something that is this people who like Batman are going to like this, or do you think this is more for people who don't like Batman because he just goes so far in one direction? People want to see him kind of fail and crumble.
Well, I think this is what we talk about with Batman, right? Is that we get the same tropes over and over and over again. We feel like we know the character. There's not much to it. So whenever we get some good Black Label stuff like we get with the Murphyverse and stuff like that, it's refreshing. And so I think because this is so woven into the fabric of, Dickens' tale, it's unique to that. So when you read it, you're reading it as such. And so I wouldn't say that, like, if you're a fan of Batman, you won't like it, or if you don't like, I wouldn't say that's the case at all. I would say this is just a good story. It's got, your basic Batman and rogue gallery, tropes and elements to it, but putting it in that world and reading it from that perspective, I thought was very interesting.
Okay. All right. Well, we always talk about if it's show movie, clearly animated movie potential, and I would love to see it turned into that at some point down the line. I mean, why not? Right? There's
It would
no.
be tremendous,
Yeah.
tremendous. Make an animated movie. Make it, hour and a half. It might not even need to be an hour and a half. You could probably, but nice, boom, quick, like you do with the other animated stuff, and I think it would be awesome.